In this video, I'm going to review how to kind of clean up your illustrations a little bit if you had a rough illustration started. So in this video, in the last video, I went ahead and drew an apple. I gave it a stroke, but I'm going to get rid of the stroke by clicking on the stroke at in the bottom of the tools and clicking none. This little red slash means none, and then this is my fill. Now, oops, I got to select my apple first. So I'm going to the selection tool, clicking my apple, and then I'm going to that stroke color, clicking none. Now I got no fill. Now as I draw, I actually like to have a stroke with no fill and then switch that. I should have mentioned that earlier. So I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to just kind of give it a stroke with no fill. And you kind of see that that's got a little bit of a bumpy edge to it on the right side. On the left side, I drew it pretty smoothly. So how can I fix that? Well, there's a couple ways. Now, in the bottom right area, I just have a few points. It's much easier to fix if you just have a few points rather than having a whole bunch of points. So you kind of see my points now. I switched to the direct selection tool. That's the white arrow, just so you can see that. You don't have to use that yet. This tool shows your points, your anchor points, and you see that I've got just a few bumpy points down at the bottom right. I got a whole bunch of points in the top area. Those points, when you have a whole bunch like that, it's going to be really a pain to adjust them. But let me show you how to get started with the bottom right. So I can click on, let me go back up to the tool panel. I can click on the white arrow. This is called the direct selection tool. The shortcut key for the direct selection tool is A. So if you hit A on your keyboard, it'll take you to the direct selection tool. And you can actually click on your line, click on your line or your stroke or your shape or your path, whatever you want to call it. Click on it and you'll see all of these little anchor points light up. Yours may be a different color. It depends on the color of the layer. So my layer is dark blue. That's just an indicator line. I can change that to grass green. Okay, so now they'll be green. So that's just an indication. So your colors for your line might show up differently. When you click off the object, you see it goes away. That's just an indicator line. Now you see when I click on the line, I've got those anchor points kind of lit up in white now. I can click on one anchor point, see how it changes color. So with the direct selection tool, you can actually click on individual anchor points. You're going to see that they change color, and you can actually now click and drag that one anchor point. So it's kind of a slow click. If you just click once on the line and drag it, it might do that. That's dragging out the line. If that happens, just hit undo, edit undo, Command Z, Control Z on a PC. So if you do something you don't want to do, undo. That white arrow though is very helpful. If you click on your shape with the white arrow and that does that, you hit undo, Command Z, Control Z. If you click on it and it highlights that one shape or that one path, excuse me, that'll let you move these points around. So that's the first thing I can do, kind of move those points so that they're in the best spot. Now you'll also see when I go over to the side that was a little bit better, that I kind of clicked and drug and made these a little bit better, my handles pop out as well. So I can actually readjust my handles using this direct selection tool. So this is what I did when I drew it. I clicked and dragged to make those handles pop out. If you didn't click and drag as you drew it, you're not going to see any handles pop out. So it'll look like that. So how do I get a curve back to this? Well, for that, you'll need to go back to the convert anchor point tool. Excuse me, it's called the anchor point tool now. That is grouped in with the pen tool. So you click and hold the pen tool, and you'll see the anchor point tool is right here. Shift and C is the shortcut key for the anchor point tool. By the way, in the last video, I clicked and dragged this, and I actually clicked this little tab, and it pops out those tools, so you can click right here and get your anchor point a little easier. So this is the anchor point tool. You see when I highlight, first you have to click on your shape. You can click on your shape with the black arrow or the white arrow, the direct selection or the selection tool, and then go to the convert anchor point tool or anchor point tool. They changed the name of it. It used to be called the Convert Anchor Point tool. I always say it the old way. Okay, and you can click on it, and you can actually drag these handles out. So just any anchor you can click on, it drags those anchors out. See that? Any of these. It's not changing my anchor points. It's not deleting anchor points. It's not, actually that's kind of neat. It's not doing anything except giving me handles. And by the way, if you have anchor points to start with and you click on it, it gets rid of the handles. So if I click on these, it gets rid of the handles and kind of makes it a sharp, jagged edge like I originally had. Okay, so you just kind of click on them, it does that. If you click and drag on them, it will actually let you curve. So now I can actually kind of curve these. Now it's not gonna be ideal. I can actually click and drag one handle at a time with this, so I can get a little bit more precise with this. If I go down here, kind of drag that out, I can get a little bit more precise with this. I can get a little bit more control with this tool, but it may also leave some bumps by doing that I don't want. Okay, so the other thing I'll need to do is kind of go back to that white arrow, the direct selection tool. I might just pop this one out as well, because you got to use this one a lot too. Don't want the group selection tool, just the main white arrow. So I'll need that one, and I'll need this one. I like to learn the shortcut keys of one item a day, or one item every time I use Illustrator. Direct selection tool is A. Anchor point tool is Shift and C. So if you want to kind of learn a couple, those might be good to know. Now the direct selection tool will now let me move those handles, or excuse me, move those anchors around and move the handles around. So I can kind of finesse it a little bit better. Okay, I'm zoomed way out. Okay, let me zoom back. Now I've got a whole bunch of dots here. I don't really need those dots. I don't need that many dots. How many dots do I need? Well, if you go over here, there's a rectangle tool. If you click and hold the rectangle tool, there's also an ellipse tool. If you click and just draw an ellipse by clicking the ellipse tool, you'll notice that there's only a few handles, or excuse me, only a few anchor points in an ellipse. So I just drew an ellipse, sort of like an apple, not quite perfect apple. But notice how many anchor points there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now an apple is not a perfect circle, but you could actually add some anchor points here. Add one here, add one here. I could add one down the bottom left, I can add one at the bottom right, and now I can go to the direct selection tool and I can actually kind of shape this into an apple if I want to. Okay, so the advantage of using the pen tool and these tools is that you have a lot of control. It's not a speedy process, but it will give you a lot of control, and later on when you start drawing logos and items that need a lot of finesse, you're going to go to this tool all the time. Okay, so I can eventually shape this. I'm just using the white arrow direct selection tool. Kind of looks like an apple, sort of. I can switch now. I've got a fill and no stroke, so it kind of works. Hit delete, it goes away. So what can I do with this one? I can click on the stroke, and I've got a bunch of anchor points. I can go to the delete anchor point tool, and I can get rid of some of those anchor points because there's just way too many. If you have like 1,000, you might just want to draw it over. I mean, you only need 6, 7, 8 or so. So now I've got, what, 3, and I can go to that anchor point tool. This one's definitely poking out there. I can click and drag, kind of curve it around. I need to flip it around. I can even pull that out. Now, what's it going to look like as an illustration? In the end, the illustration is all it's going to show. So it's going to, in the end, I'm going to turn that photo off. In the end, I'm not going to have that photo. So in the end, that's what my apple looks like, and it's okay. But I need to add a few more details. But that's an okay start to my apple illustration. Okay, I can fill it in. That's an okay start. I've done better, but I've done worse too. So this is a little bit of a challenge. In the next video, I'm going to cover a few more tools that you might want to try out in addition to the pen tool. I definitely recommend practice with the pen tool, practice with the direct selection tool, practice with the anchor point tool. Those are the 3 main tools that you're going to use as a graphic designer, as a professional, to get that really detailed, precise design that you're going to want in the future.